Where did humans come from? Every major theory of human origins. Where did we come from? It sounds like a simple question, but behind it are some of the biggest mysteries humanity has ever tried to solve. Are we the result of billions of years of evolution? Were humans created by God? Did an advanced civilization from another planet influence our development? Could life itself have arrived on Earth from somewhere else? For thousands of years, different cultures have created completely different answers. Today, we are going to explore the major theories and ideas about human origins, from modern evolutionary science to ancient creation stories, intelligent design, panspermia, and even the controversial ancient astronaut hypothesis. But there is one important rule. We will separate what we have strong evidence for from what people believe or speculate about. So let's go back to the very beginning. 1. The scientific theory, evolution. The explanation supported by modern biology is evolution. And there is an important misconception to clear up first. Scientists do not say that humans evolved from the chimpanzees or monkeys we see today. Instead, humans and modern chimpanzees share an ancient common ancestor. According to genetic and fossil evidence, the human lineage and the lineage leading to chimpanzees and bonobos diverged roughly 6 to 8 million years ago. After that split, evolution continued along different branches. Over millions of years, Africa became the center of the human evolutionary story. Scientists have discovered fossils belonging to numerous early human species. Some walked on 2 legs, others developed larger brains, some made increasingly sophisticated tools, and many eventually disappeared. Human evolution was not a straight line from ape to modern human. It was more like a huge, complicated family tree, with many branches appearing, changing, mixing, and becoming extinct. The Smithsonian estimates that more than 6,000 individual early human fossils have been discovered, representing more than a dozen species. And then, around 300,000 years ago, something happened. Our species appeared. Homo sapiens. The earliest members of our species evolved in Africa. Over time, groups of humans migrated across the continent and eventually out of Africa, spreading into Asia, Europe, Australia, and eventually the Americas. Genetics provides another remarkable piece of evidence. All living humans belong to the same species, and modern human DNA shows that our species has deep African roots. But evolution didn't stop there. Our ancestors encountered other human species. Neanderthals, Denisovans, and other groups existed alongside our ancestors, and sometimes they interbred. So modern humans are not simply the descendants of one isolated population. Our history is much more complicated. The scientific picture is constantly being refined as new fossils and genetic discoveries appear. But the overall evidence, fossils, genetics, archaeology, and anatomy, strongly supports human evolution. 2. Creation stories and religious origins. But science is not the only way humans have tried to answer this question. Long before modern genetics and paleontology existed, civilizations created their own explanations for where humans came from. And there are hundreds of different creation traditions around the world. In the Abrahamic traditions, for example, the book of Genesis describes humans as being created by God, with Adam and Eve playing a central role in the story. In Islamic tradition, Adam is also regarded as the first human and prophet, and humanity is connected to divine creation. Other cultures have completely different stories. Ancient Greek mythology tells stories involving gods and the creation of humanity. In some Native American traditions, humans emerge from the earth or are brought into the world by supernatural beings. Ancient Egyptian mythology contains several creation traditions involving gods such as Atum, Ptah, and Ra, and many other civilizations developed their own explanations. These stories are extremely important culturally and historically, but there is an important distinction. Religious creation accounts are generally based on faith, scripture, tradition, and theology, rather than fossil or genetic evidence. Some religious people, therefore, reject evolutionary explanations. Others accept evolution while believing that God was ultimately responsible for the process. This means that evolution versus religion is not necessarily a simple two-sided debate. There are many religious people who accept modern evolutionary science while interpreting their religious traditions in a theological way. 3. Intelligent design. Another idea that appears in modern discussions is intelligent design. The basic argument is that some features of life are so complex that they are better explained by an intelligent cause rather than by natural evolutionary processes. Supporters often point to biological complexity, information contained in DNA, or structures inside cells. However, intelligent design is not accepted as a scientific alternative to evolution by the mainstream scientific community. The reason is simple. A scientific theory needs testable mechanisms and evidence that can distinguish its predictions from other explanations. Intelligent design generally proposes an intelligent cause without providing a scientifically testable mechanism identifying who or what that designer was. So intelligent design remains primarily a philosophical or religious position, rather than an established scientific explanation of human origins. 4. Panspermia. Now things become much more interesting. What if life did not actually begin on Earth? This brings us to panspermia. Panspermia is the idea that life, or the ingredients necessary for life, could have arrived on Earth from elsewhere in space. Perhaps microorganisms traveled inside meteorites. Perhaps organic molecules were delivered by comets or asteroids. Or perhaps life was transported between planets. Notice something important. Panspermia does not necessarily explain how life originally began. It simply moves the question somewhere else. If life came from Mars, for example, we would still have to ask, how did life begin on Mars? There is currently no confirmed evidence that extraterrestrial life brought humans or the ancestors of humans to Earth. And panspermia does not replace human evolution. Even if microorganisms had arrived from space billions of years ago, humans could still have evolved through natural processes on Earth. So panspermia is an interesting hypothesis about the possible origin or distribution of life, but it is not an established explanation for the origin of Homo sapiens. 5. The ancient astronaut theory. And now we arrive at one of the most popular ideas in modern conspiracy culture, the ancient astronaut hypothesis. The idea became especially famous through writers such as Erich von Däniken. The basic claim is that extraterrestrial civilizations visited Earth in the distant past and influenced human civilization. Some versions go even further. They suggest that aliens may have genetically modified early humans, effectively helping create modern humans. Supporters sometimes point to ancient monuments, myths about gods descending from the sky, unexplained archaeological structures, or ancient images that they interpret as depicting spacecraft. The theory is fascinating, but there is a major problem. There is currently no reliable scientific evidence demonstrating that extraterrestrial beings genetically engineered humans or built ancient civilizations. Archaeologists have natural explanations for many of the monuments and technologies that ancient astronaut theories describe as mysterious. So, while the idea makes excellent material for science fiction and popular entertainment, it remains speculative rather than scientifically established. 6. The sudden appearance question. There is another question that often appears in discussions about human origins. Why do modern humans seem so different? Where did our language, art, imagination, religion, and advanced technology come from? Some people argue that the development of human intelligence happened too quickly to be explained by evolution, but the scientific picture is more gradual and complicated. Traits that we associate with modern humans did not appear all at once. Bipedal walking evolved millions of years ago. Tool use appeared long before modern humans. Brain expansion happened over a long period. Symbolic behavior, art, and complex cultural expression became especially prominent much later. In other words, there was no single moment when an ape suddenly became human. It was a long evolutionary process involving many populations and many changes. 7. So which theory is correct? So after exploring all these possibilities, where does that leave us? We need to distinguish 3 different categories. First, scientific explanations. Human evolution is supported by fossils, genetics, anatomy, archaeology, and dating methods. The evidence indicates that Homo sapiens evolved in Africa roughly 300,000 years ago and shares common ancestry with other primates. Second, religious explanations. Creation stories explain human existence through divine action and have enormous cultural and spiritual importance. Whether someone accepts them is ultimately connected to their religious or philosophical worldview. Third, speculative hypotheses. Panspermia and ancient astronaut theories raise interesting questions, but currently lack the evidence necessary to establish them as explanations for human origins. And perhaps the most interesting thing is this: science itself does not claim to know everything. Researchers still debate details of our evolutionary family tree. They continue to discover new fossils. They analyze ancient DNA, and they revise the story when new evidence appears. The Smithsonian itself notes that scientists still debate which species were direct ancestors of modern humans and exactly how different human populations interacted. Conclusion. The story of human origins is therefore not simply a story about where we came from. It is a story about how we search for answers. For thousands of years, humans looked at the stars and asked where we came from. Our ancestors told stories about gods, spirits, and creation. Modern scientists began digging into the earth. They discovered fossils. They compared skeletons. They decoded DNA, and little by little, an extraordinary story emerged. We are one species that appeared in Africa hundreds of thousands of years ago. But our deeper history reaches back millions of years. And the further we look into the past, the more complicated and fascinating the story becomes. Maybe the greatest mystery isn't simply where did humans come from? Maybe it is how much more is there left for us to discover? If you enjoyed this journey through the major theories of human origins, subscribe to the channel, because the next mystery is already waiting, and this one may be even bigger. Where did life itself come from?